Times 4:32 p.m. Speakers Media 6 on the record.
Hi there. I think we were, Jacob, I think we were looking at Exhibit 12. This is US 0000016154. Great, thanks. And if you could go back to the first tab on this document, called NEH Grants, in parentheses, JF, close parentheses. Yep. And maybe zoom out a bit so that we could see more of the document. Thanks. And then to the right, or excuse me, scroll to the left, please. Thank you. Okay, so Justin, again, these are what you're testifying that you and Nate put together in the lead up to your initial meeting with Mr. Wolfson and Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Okay. Did you actually show Mr. Wolfson and Mr. McDonald this list?
No.
Why not?
We didn't get to it, frankly. We said that we could show them. They said, great, we've actually been doing the same thing. We should send you the work that we've been doing as a team.
Okay. So you never gave this to Mr. Wolfson or Mr. McDonald?
Not that I remember.
Okay. Let's go to tab 13, Jacob. This will be Exhibit 13, Bates US-0000063326. All right, so this is a recording of text messages in a Celebrite report. It's just an image of text on a phone. This appears to be a conversation between, well, can we zoom in, Jacob, just so we could see? Yeah, there we go. That's perfect. So there are two phone numbers in the top left. 120248066696. Was that a phone number, to your understanding, that was affiliated with Michael McDonald?
Yes.
Okay. And then there's a number +17712109025. Do you understand that to be your government phone number?
I think so.
Okay. So in the first text on the right side, there's a bubble. And if you could zoom in a bit more, Jacob, to that gray bubble. That's good, thanks. So it looks like the 9025 number sends a text to the 6696 number, Mike McDonald. Does that seem to be what's going on?
Yes.
Okay, so this is a text from you to Mr. McDonald. Is that fair?
I believe so.
Okay. It says, quote, pardon me, this is sent on, under delivered. It says 5/20/2025. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Were you still with the government at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Was this after your work had been finished with the NEH, to your understanding?
Substantively, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So you text Mr. McDonald and you say, quote, ringing to give you a heads up that the DOGE team is planning to make an ex post on NEH highlighting a few of the crazy DEI grants from Biden era administration and reiterating that NEH grants going forward will be merit-based and awarded to non-DEI pro-America causes. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So it appears that you have a pretty specific reference point in what you call the DOGE team. Who's the DOGE team that you're referring to there?
The leadership team. Stephen Ehikian, Josh Grunbaum, Anthony Armstrong.
Anthony Armstrong, Josh Gernbaum, and who else?
Stephen Ehikian.
Stephen Ehikian. Okay. And collectively, this leadership team was planning to make an ex-post? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who ran the X for Doge?
I know it moved around. I don't know who was physically in charge
Okay.
while I was there.
Got it. How did you become aware, or before we strike that, how do you know that, I guess I should say?
Nate.
Nate told you that the owner of the X Doge page moved around?
Well, we just didn't know, or I didn't know who was running it. But I know that Josh and Steven had their own X accounts as well through GSA.
Okay. How did you find out that this was going to happen?
That the X post was going to happen.
Yeah.
I think Nate told me.
Okay. Did you have an understanding of why the Doge account on X would post about NEH grants?
Just exemplary work that's been done on aligning with the administration's priorities.
Did you often text Mr. McDonald like this?
In the month prior to that, infrequently, but while we were engaging, can you get me from the lobby, and no substantive work via text, but coordinating meeting times, fairly common.
Via text from your government, on your government cell phone?
Yes.
Okay. Did you search for those documents in the preparation or in the context of this litigation?
I didn't have
Okay.
my phone.
Got it. But you were texting Mr. McDonald's on this phone number while you were working with NEH?
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to put it in the record that we request all of the text messages that...
This is where that came from.
I know.
So
Well,
it came from imaging his phone and producing it to you.
Right.
So we produced the ones that are
I do know that.
responsive, so I don't know what you're requesting that's different from what we've already done.
Okay. Just putting in the record that we make that request of all
Okay, well-
of the text messages that he's referring to, that he shared with
Well-
Mr. McDonald.
We produced the ones that we said we would produce, pursuant to responsiveness criteria, and so that is what we've done.
Okay. Surely text messages about meetings that you were having with the head of NEH would be responsive to your communications with the head of NEH. We'll move
Well,
on.
that's
Okay.
really not an issue for him to answer at his deposition, so I'm not sure what you're...
I'm putting it on the record for you.
Okay, well,
and the judge.
we are not responding to whatever this new request is as phrased on the record.
Okay.
I think we've been pretty clear about what we did.
Okay, great, thank you. You note the DOGE team is planning to post about quote, crazy DEI grants. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have an understanding of what crazy meant in this context?
Grants that were most infringent on the EOs
The EOs about DEI, gender ideology,
and waste.
and waste. It also says pro-America causes. Do you see that? Mm-hmm. Do you understand what that means?
America 250 grants, Garden for American Heroes. Yeah.
Okay. So, is it your understanding that grants that involve DEI as they relate to the EOs are also not pro-America?
Action.
Sorry. It depends on the grant.
Okay. It says non-DEI pro-America, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I guess my question is, could a grant be DEI and pro-America?
That depends on the grant.
Okay. How do you know that Anthony, Josh, and Stephen were involved with this ex post?
They were the leaders that we were communicating with.
Okay. You also say that grants going forward will be merit-based. Can you explain what you mean by that?
This is reiterating some of the verbiage that Mike felt the agency should be headed. What Mike interprets as merit-based is entirely up to him, but this is just kind of the way that he wanted the agency to be heading towards.
Did he ever explain to you what he understood merit-based to mean?
We never got into definitionally what is merit-based. In, implied conversation, it's just not discriminating based on cultural, race, identity, gender.
Not discriminating based on...
Purely based on merit.
Okay. Did you make an assessment of the scholarly quality of the grants that you were reviewing for potential termination?
We were only looking at it from the view of the EOs, whether it was related to DEI in any way or wasteful, non-critical, etc.
Okay. So, if you came across, strike that, did you ever come across a grant during your time at NEH that you flagged as DEI and then you did an additional assessment as to whether it was also pro-America?
Yes. There were a few grants that, for example, may have been promoting a specific race within an American Veterans Initiative. And while, yes, you are awarding a grant based on race, that is also a veteran's benefit, which in our view and discussions is pro-America. And so it would be adjusted from DEI related to aligned with Mike's view of NEH.
Okay. In your view, were the grants that were eventually terminated on DEI grounds not merit-based?
It depends on which grant. Do you have examples?
I guess just in general, I kind of want to understand how you were systematizing, let's say, merit, DEI. It sounds like these are two kind of concepts that were on your mind as you were looking at grants. Is that fair to say?
Frankly, merit-based is how Mike was conceptualizing the go-forward review of applicants. And as you know, I was looking on the historical view of grants that had gone out and whether or not they were related to DEI or wasteful spend. And so my understanding is that Mike was going to implement new methods of just assessing purely on merit of an awardee.
Okay. Got it. Okay,
Forward-looking.
Right. Okay, so there's like a kind of a chronological element to this that I'm not sure I'd fully appreciated before. You were backwards looking at existing grants that had been already awarded in your implementation of this DEI review. Is that fair to say?
Some of them were going up for review with the board.
Okay.
And part of the request from Mike and Adam was to assist in reviewing the 800, or I don't remember the exact number, of awards that were up for review for approval or denial. And so in that sense, they hadn't been awarded yet, but it was an ongoing active review.
Okay. So let's scroll down a little bit, Jacob. And to the left, so we can see that text. Great. I actually don't think this one has any text on it, does it? Yeah, so let's scroll down to the next bubble below that. There we go. Mr. McDonald responds, Mr. McDonald responds to you later on. Does that look right? A text from Mr. McDonald.
Yes.
Okay. This is on, pardon me. This is also on 5/20/2025. It appears that he responds to your last message that we looked at with, quote, "just saw it," colon, and then he drops an X link there. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. And this looks like he's acknowledging that he thinks he's identified the X post that you were referring to in your text to him earlier. Is that a fair reading of this?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to tab 14, Jacob. This is exhibit 14. All right, so this is an ex post that is just the link that Mr. McDonald put in his last text message to you in exhibit 13. Does this look like what he was probably referring to? Or
Yes.
What he sent you? Okay. Have you seen this before?
Yes.
Okay. And is this the ex post that you were actually referring to in your text message to him?
Yes.
Okay. So let's look at some of these grants. Let's look at the full text. This is the Department of Government Efficiency X page. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
And it says, during the previous administration, the National Endowment for the Humanities awarded the following grants to spend taxpayer dollars, all of which have been canceled. Open parens, $163 million in overall savings, close parens. NEH grants will be merit-based and awarded to non-DEI pro-America causes. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
This language looks very similar to the text that you sent to Mr. McDonald, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. Had you seen this draft ex post before you wrote to Mr. McDonald?
Yes.
Okay. How did you see that?
Draft form. It was something that Nate and I pulled together. So savings is something that Josh Grunbaum has. We had to report all of our grant and contract savings into him. The verbiage NEH grants will be merit-based and awarded non-DEI pro-America causes is from NEH's, I forget what it, like the publicity statement that Mike had launched, and so this was aligned with his thinking. And then the 6 grants were a consolidated version of some of the grants that were most infringent on DEI and wasteful spending EOs, or targeting DEI and wasteful spending EOs.
So tell me if I'm misunderstanding this. You actually helped to draft what eventually became this ex post?
Yes.
Okay. And what did you do with that draft?
I don't remember exactly, but we did make sure that it was accurate and that NEH, the direction of NEH and the go forward methodology for examining grants what aligned with what Mike had issued in a press release.
Who did you collaborate with on this?
Nate?
Who else?
I don't remember who Nate sent it to, but this is a form of the draft that we put together, Nate and I.
Okay. And let's look at the date. It says May 20th, 2025. Is that right?
Yes.
This was the same day, actually, that you texted McDonald in the last exhibit. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at some of these grants. So the first line says $350,000 or $350,000 for interactive gay travel guides to better understand historical LGBTQ plus spaces. The second one says $350,000 to create a Spanish version of homosaurus.org. The third one says $247,000 to digitize stories of transgender adults in the Pacific Northwest. The fourth one says $75,000 to examine the relationship between the internet live streaming and LGBTQ plus communities. Did I read those correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember seeing these grants earlier in this deposition?
Yes.
Where did you see those grants?
The preliminary list that we'd used
Okay.
to prep for the initial meeting with Mike and Adam.
Right. The initial meeting that was on March 12th, 2025.
Yes.
Okay. And this is a post highlighting those same grants in May 2025. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And you had identified these grants by running a list of terms that we saw through ChatGPT. Is that right?
Objection.
No.
Okay. You had identified these grants by screening grant descriptions for the list of terms that we discussed a little bit earlier, right?
Step one in a review is to hone in on where you may find grants that are not aligned with EOs. And so step one was using that list, which was just a VLOOKUP on publicly available data. Then you read the actual grant and determine what is this about, when does it reference the term that we matched it with, and then make the ultimate judgment call on, okay, from the lens of these EOs, is this DEI related or wasteful?
So you reviewed thousands of grants between your start at NEH and when you stopped working with NEH, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is it a little odd that so many of, or at least 5 or 6 of the grants that you flagged for your initial meeting with Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson ended up 2 months later on an ex post on DOGE's official account?
Objection.
Is it a little odd, meaning?
How do you explain that that grants that were in your preliminary list, specifically these grants in your preliminary list, ended up being on the DOGE official page, which ended up getting over 500,000 views?
Objection.
Because we reviewed each of the grants, and these, we believed, were most infringent with the executive orders. And to the point about what is the ex post meant to do, it's just show some of the progress in aligning agencies like NEH with administration priorities.
Right. And these grants were identified by you in the run-up to the meeting on March 12th with Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson by running terms through the grant descriptions such as homosexual, gay, black, people of color, tribal, right?
Objection.
These along with 80 others.
80 other what?
Just hits on that term search. So then you read the description and assess how misaligned is this with administration priorities.
Okay. But again, these grants that we see here were on that preliminary list through which you ran a set of words to identify these grants that included words like black, homosexual, right?
To get to a big list of grants and all of their project descriptions, which we then had to read through each one and pull out shortened language of these grants.
Okay.
You highlighted the 4 of the 80 or 100, I don't even remember how many hits it was, but we had to read the full description in order for us to make any assessment of how misaligned it was with the EOs.
Okay. Right, but these are grants that had words in the description that hit on the key terms from that list that we were discussing, right?
Yes, but they did not, that wasn't the sole reason that they would have ended up on this post.
Right.
You understand that? Because I'm reading the full description to in the context of the EOs that had come out. Is
Right.
this wasteful? Is this related to DEI?
Right. Absolutely. And I'm not implying that you did or didn't do that. I was just asking the simple yes or no question.
Right, which I've answered.
Okay.
Sorry. I don't.
Right. Okay. So you said you never showed that initial preliminary list to Mr. Wolfson and Mr. McDonald, right?
That's right, but these do appear in the broader list of grants that we reviewed.
So it was your view going into your work with NEH before you even stepped foot in there that these specific grants probably violated or conflicted with the EO's DEI, gender ideology, and wasteful spending. Is that right?
Maybe, but we needed to confirm with Mike and Adam and read the full description, which, again, publicly available information is different from what EGMS has. So we use the source of truth in the final determination of whether this conflicted or not.
Right. Well, why is $247,000 to digitize stories of transgender adults in the Pacific Northwest a crazy grant?
Objection.
In what way do you mean crazy?
In the way that you described it in your text to Mr. McDonald.
In the way that it is misaligned with administration priorities of focusing on non-DEI initiatives.
And who made that judgment?
When?
Who made the judgment that it was misaligned with the administration's priorities?
When?
When you put it on your preliminary list for Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson?
Prior to the meeting, you mean?
Yes.
We just looked at what could be infringing on the EOs. And Nate and I reviewed each of these to see which of these could conflict. And all of these, if I remember correctly, ended up on the eventual termination list.
Right. Several grants on that preliminary list ended up on the cancellation list. Is that fair to say?
Separate and apart from the initial work, yes.
Okay. And that was a list that you put together before you had a single meeting with Mr. McDonald, right?
Yes.
McDonald. So in essence, just to recap, you put together a list of what you consider to be the craziest grants prior to meeting with Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson, right?
In the context of, is this aligned with administration priorities or not? Yes.
Okay. And then fast forward 2 months, a lot of those grants at the top of that preliminary list end up on a post that DOGE is putting into the Twitter X universe about grants that have actually been canceled. Is that what's happening here?
Objection.
Could you repeat?
Two months later, a lot of those grants that were at the top of your preliminary list of crazy grants ends up in a DOGE post about canceled grants. Is that fair to say?
What do you mean by the top? Like that it was within a list of the 180 that had tagged for these keywords? Yes, if that's what you consider the top.
Okay. Well, there was a portion of the spreadsheet that said craziest grants specifically, and I think it only had something like 25 grants. Did you?
Could we pull it up?
Absolutely, yeah. Jacob, can we go back to this will be tab 12, exhibit 12. So if we look at, again, this is tab 12, exhibit 12. If we look at row 3, it says craziest grants. And then if you could scroll down very slowly, Jacob. Right. There. You can stop there. At row 25, another section starts that's called other bad grants. Several of the grants that we looked at and that were on that X post are in the top 25 labeled under craziest grants. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 4 of the 25.
4, yeah. Do you have an understanding for why, I mean, out of the thousands and thousands of grants that were canceled, 4 from this top 25 that you had been compiling before ever stepping foot into NEH ended up on the cancellation list that was publicized on DOGE?
Objection.
X.
Because if you read the descriptions and confirmed from the work with Adam and Mike, these are misaligned with the EOs for identifying wasteful spend and identifying programs that are related to DEI.
Right. Can you scroll down to the bottom of this list, Jacob? Just to the last entry. That'd be better to drag it, yeah. Okay. So there are around 1,500 entries here. Is that?
Is that the bottom?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, many of these may not be active.
Yeah, you can stop going down, Jacob. Yeah. If you could just go back to the top, thank you. Okay. Did you run this list of words through every grant description that you could find on the, I forgot where you got this from. Where did you get this from?
Grants.gov.
Grants.gov. Did you run that detection list through every grant that was available on grants.gov?
From NEH?
From NEH, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the 5 or 6 that ended up on the DOGE page would have been identified through the detection list, which is tab 3 of Exhibit 12.
No. There was a review we did with Mike and Adam
Okay.
to read every grant,
Okay.
And these were the most infringent on the 4 out of the 6 in the list were the most infringent of the EOs.
Okay. So Mike and Adam agreed with you that the craziest grants that you identified before joining NEH were indeed the craziest grants that the NEH had, period.
Objection.
I'll note that counsel is laughing, I guess,
I was
objection.
coughing, I'm sorry,
Okay.
okay?
Like,
Could you repeat
I'm
the
not
question?
laughing, had a cough coming on right while I was saying objection.
okay, I just
So,
want to keep this professional, counsel.
I literally cannot help it if I occasionally cough. I am sorry about that.
Okay.
That was completely involuntary, and I am sorry. I will try to keep coughing to a minimum, which I have been trying to do, but I am recovering from something, and I can't help it if it occasionally happens. So I'm sorry to offend you by coughing.
Thanks, counsel. Let's go to. Let's pull up tab 15, Jacob, but I'll ask a few questions before we get there. Were you part of the process of actually sending out termination notices to grantees at NEH?
Yes.
Okay, describe what that process was, and I mean the kind of logistical process in terms of how the grants actually left NEH and got to the grantees.
Sorry, the communication, the documents, preparation, where do you want to focus?
Sure, I guess I'm just asking broadly. I guess before we start talking into like what communications were happening between you and Michael and Nate and Adam and the kind of hierarchy and who's deciding to do what, just the mechanics of sending out terminations. Were you involved in that process?
Yes.
Okay. What role did you play in that process?
Sending out the terminations.
Okay. Can you describe what that entailed?
Yes, for each grant, you need to have an official letter explaining why there is a termination. That letter is bespoke to the grantee, the name of the organization, and an explanation for why Mike and team have elected to terminate. And that goes out from an email, an NEH email, to the inbox of the grantees.
Okay. And who is actually sending that email out?
Me.
Okay. Through your GSA email account?
Through my NEH email.
Okay. Was it the jfox@neh.gov that we saw earlier?
No, it was a notifications inbox that was set up so that, not Brett, but the person that was in charge of grants at NEH, so that he could have access to it and communicate directly with the grantees, following their responses. So this is a separate inbox, not from my JFox.
Okay. Let's go to tab 15, Jacob. This is exhibit 15. This is Bates US-0000504661. It's an email from Mr. Fox to Mr. McDonald and Mr. Wolfson, CCing Mr. Kavanaugh, sent on April 1st, 2025.
What document is this?
This is US-0000504661. Do you recognize this document?
Could I see the full context here?
Do you recognize this, Mr. Kavanaugh? Or, excuse me, Mr. Fox?
I'm just refreshing a memory on this email.
Sure.
It sort of kicks off an email chain. Could you scroll up, Jacob? Okay, you can keep going up.
Let me know when you're ready to.
Okay, one more. Yep. Okay, I remember.
Great. Does this appear to be authentic to you
Yes.
upon review? And is this an exchange you would have had in your ordinary course doing work with the NEH as a detailee from GSA?
Yes.
So in this email, again, from Mr. Fox, or from you, Justin, to Mr. McDonald, Mr. Wolfson CCing Mr. Kavanaugh, the subject is NEH grants termination. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And the body of this email from you to Mr. McDonald says, Mike, please see attached grant termination letter, which we have to use for organizations and state and jurisdictional humanities councils. We will address these first and individuals/scholarship grants once the orgs are finished, as those are more personalized. Additionally, see below typical language sent to each of the grantees receiving notification. If it's your preference, we can set up an email like grant_notification@NEH.gov and add language to the beginning of the email saying, quote, at the direction of the acting chairman for NEH, close quote, instead of sending from your email or signing off with your name in the signature. Your details are already in the attachment. Let us know on below and attached tomorrow. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And below that, you're referencing, I think, the body of an email that would be sent to a grantee with the attached actual termination letter for that grant. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you have an understanding of why you were engaged in the actual process of sending out the grant terminations?
Because Mike did not feel confident in the timeline of getting notices out. He said it was going to take hours of the team that they didn't have, and he wanted us to do it for him.
what's this proposition that you're making when you say if it's your preference, we can set up an email like grant_notification@nih.gov?
What's my read of that sentence?
What are you, can you give me context as to what you're actually proposing here?
Yeah, ultimately, procedurally, it's going to be up to Mike how he'd like to send out some of these notifications. He was NEH counsel. He's going to have an opinion on how this is conducted, and this is just opening up optionality for him
But what are you proposing?
to set up an email that's grant notifications at NEH, or if he would like to send it from his email.
Right. Did you end up setting up an email address like grant_notification@nih.gov?
If I remember correctly, I spoke with Mike on the phone following this email, unless there's an email that he responded to, and his preference was to set up an email.
Okay. So if I ask Mr. McDonald at his deposition why you drafted this language, he's going to tell us it's because he told you to go draft that language?
Objection.
I don't know what he's going to say,
Okay.
but I know that he wanted us to execute the terminations, and so we're doing anything we can to help him.
Okay. So he told you specifically to draft termination, draft language for the terminations that you were going to be sending out?
Objection.
No, but we were just helping him throughout this process. So this is a courtesy, not a mandatory thing that we did.
Below that it says, "Dear," open parens, this is in the letter, in the body of an email that would go out to the grantees in your draft. You write, "Dear," open parens, organization name, close parens, "we regret to inform you that your NEH grant has been terminated. Please see the attached grant termination notice." Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
And was the goal here to insert the organizations that had been subject to grant terminations?
The goal here is to get Mike's input on what would be sent alongside grant terminations.
Right. But the organization name inside of the brackets there, that would be filled with organizations that were subject to grant terminations, right?
That is right.
Okay. And you drafted this without Mr. McDonald directing you to draft this, is that right?
If I remember correctly, yes, I did this for his benefit.
Okay. Did you also draft the letter that was attached to this email?
Objection.
Alongside Mike.
Okay. What do you mean alongside Mike?
In the standard normal course of draft that gets iterated, his input, ultimately his sign off.
When did you sit down with Mike and draft this language together?
Objection.
I don't know when precisely, but back and forth we had emails iterating on the language, redlining on the language.
Okay. But you did the first draft of the letter, is that fair to say?
With input from Justin Eminetti, I drafted the first take, and Mike, again, ultimately has sign off.
With input from who?
Justin Eminetti.
Okay. But you and Justin drafted the first draft of this letter. Is that fair?
I drafted the first with Justin Eminetti's input.
Okay. So you're aware that the terminations here would be for active NEH, or grants that were active at the time of the sending of the terminations. Is that fair to say?
Could you repeat that question?
This termination letter would have terminated active grants, correct?
I'm not sure I get what you mean
I guess.
by active grants.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit kind of circular. We could actually just strike that question. In the DOGE X post that we reviewed earlier, the number that, there's a figure of $163 million that it references with respect to terminated grants at the NEH. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And having played a role in identifying grants that had to do with DEI, do you feel any remorse about the scale of the grants that were ultimately terminated on those grounds?
Objection.
No. In the context of the $2 trillion deficit, like we spoke about why I joined, it was to reduce wasteful spending and non-critical spend.
Reducing.
Sorry for those impacted, but there is a bigger problem, and that's ultimately the more important piece is reducing the government spend.
Did you ever find it problematic that you were alongside Nate shortlisting for termination projects that had hits on words like black, homosexual, LGBTQ+?
Objection.
What do you mean problematic?
What did you think about it? Let me put it that way.
We were identifying wasteful spend in the government based on administration direction. That was the whole reason we were there, is to find savings.
But we saw in your list of terms, you actually didn't use words like white, Caucasian, heterosexual. Do you remember talking about that?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't use those words to identify grants that would be conflicting with the EOs, right?
Very well could have.
Did you?
I didn't, but going back would have made sense because, as we've mentioned, there's DEI is a pretty encompassing bucket.
Okay. What do you find wasteful about grants relating to black, homosexual, or LGBTQ subjects?
Objection.
It is non-critical spend, meaning nobody's life is at stake.
But you didn't screen for white, Caucasian, or heterosexual, right?
We could have.
But you didn't.
We didn't.
And that was based on your choice and Mr. Kavanaugh in selecting those words that you used to screen grants, right?
Objection.
The list itself was only a tool to find grants that we needed to read the full context for.
But that was a judgment call based on your perception and Nate's perception on what would be DEI, right?
Objection.
Ultimately, what was canceled is at the discretion of the agency heads. And those grants that we'd identified ultimately were canceled because of further depth review of the context and the descriptions.
Can we scroll down, Jacob? To the bottom email. Keep going. Yep. Yep. Okay, well, we can go to tab 16. Jacob? Okay, this is Exhibit 16, US-0000500717. This is another email thread. The top email is from Justin Fox to Michael McDonald and Nate Kavanaugh, sent on March 31st, 2025. Would you like to see the full email?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind going to the just beginning of this chain. Okay, you can go up.
Really, before we, oh, sorry. Are you still reading?
I am, sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah. You could probably zoom in a little bit too, Jacob. The text is kind of small. Thank you so much.
I think I'm on this. I might be on this email now. Oh. Yeah, you can go up to the first page. Sorry. Okay. I think I get the context.
Okay. Before we really analyze this email, sorry, I had a few follow-ups about our last conversation. I think you said that you felt no remorse for the termination of these NEH grants. Is that right?
Objection.
I think if we're talking procedurally, I feel sorry for those impacted. The bigger picture element, it was a necessary step in the right direction of saving
how?
money because of the federal deficit.
Okay.
Growth in government spending leads to a debt spiral, leads to hyperinflation, leads to every American feeling 10, 12% inflation. It's knock-on effects of something that you can address today through non-critical spending cuts, or you can all feel tomorrow.
Did the federal deficit go down as a result of, strike that, did the federal deficit actually decrease from 2024 to 2025?
Discretionary spending was down 183 million in FY26 proposed budget from OMB. Granted, there was a 600 or 4 or 600 million growth in Department of Defense budget, so it could have been more, but I think we were trending towards at least 183 of discretionary spending going down in FY26.
But did the deficit itself go down in its totality?
I'm not sure.
Would you be surprised to hear that it did not?
No.
Objection.
Does that change how you assess whether there's any remorse about canceling hundreds of millions of dollars of grants for scholars in the humanities?
Objection.
Again, I have to believe that the dollars that were saved went to mission critical, non-wasteful spending. And so, again, in the broad macro, an unfortunate circumstance for individual, but this is an effort for the administration.
Okay. You said it went to non-wasteful spending, suggesting that the canceled grants were wasteful spending. Is that fair to say?
Ultimately, it was the decision of Mike and Adam to address if it was wasteful or not wasteful. In my opinion, what's certainly not wasteful is food stamps, healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid funding.
Right. So, hundreds of millions of dollars of grants were terminated from the NEH. The deficit didn't change much, and you were paid $150,000 to do that job of reducing the deficit. Do you feel like the $150,000 paid to you was wasteful spending?
Objection.
What are you definitionally saying wasteful spending is here?
Discretionary spending, or however you defined wasteful spending when you said it.
The broad principle is to reduce the amount of dollars flowing out of the government into the market. And so any chance you have to reduce dollars flowing out into non-critical life-supporting grants or programs, I would view as wasteful. And so any software or even consultants that you pull in that assist you in redirecting funds to the most critical resources is not waste in the way that I would view wasteful spending.
Okay. So your job was not wasteful spending, but humanities projects that we've seen that were canceled as a result of your input were wasteful spending.
Objection.
necessarily.
What do you mean?
I mean, it just depends on how you're going to bucket or consider wasteful spending or not.
I'm asking you to apply your own definition of
Yeah.
wasteful spending. So, for
The
instance,
net benefit of paying 150 in salary to redirect, for example, 163 million of humanities grants into something like food stamps or healthcare. That means you've saved 183 million and you've lost 150,000, 9/12 of that, 110,000 relative to $163 million that then was redirected into critical funding or saved.
Right.
So the net benefit would be not wasteful.
Right. We saw a grant about women who had violence committed against them during the Holocaust. Do you remember that grant?
Yes.
Okay. You ended up determining that that grant had DEI elements to it. Do you remember that?
Objection.
Yes.
Okay. Would you say that that grant was wasteful spending?
Ultimately not my decision.
But do you think that that grant was wasteful spending?
Yes.
Okay. But the 150,000 that DOGE paid you to mark that grant as DEI was not wasteful spending.
Objection.
It's the net of the spend that you put in
Got it.
that determines if it's wasteful or not. And so a grant that goes out to an individual that's creating a documentary on something related to DEI is not that dollar. Those dollars could be getting put to something like food stamps or Medicaid for grandma in a rural county. So that's not wasteful spend.
Right. So because you were paid 150,000 to help to save hundreds of millions of dollars, that 150,000 was not wasteful. Is that your position?
Objection.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We can go to, we already have it up, tab 16, this is exhibit 16. I'm almost wrapping up here, guys, so we'll be out of here soon. You've already reviewed this. Do you recognize this document?
The email?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, great. If we scroll down to the first in time message, so the bottom of the document, and again, this is US-0000500717. It says, this is an email from Justin Fox to Michael McDonald and Adam Wolfson, CCing Nate Kavanaugh. The subject is to review active grants. Justin, here you write, quote, Mike/Adam, thanks for the productive time today. See attached active grants for your review for DEI or wasteful spend. Open parens, approximately 440 grants, close parens. Flagging these are the ones NEH staff marked NA for DEI. It may be easier to review these in the Excel format so you can mark yes or no in the active Excel. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
What does NA for DEI mean, as you wrote it here?
The NEH staff had been reviewing grants for the last few months, and NA indicated a grant that they deemed to not have relation to DEI. Not applicable for DEI.
not applicable, and A means not applicable for DEI.
They marked as NA in the review, the comprehensive review they had of all the outstanding grants.
Right.
And NA, in their opinion, was not applicable for DEI.
Does that mean no DEI?
Objection.
In their view, it does not apply to DEI in the construct of the EO.
Okay. And then you did an additional review of the grants that they had marked that not apply or not applicable for DEI. Is that fair to say?
According to Mike's and Adam's direction, yes.
Okay. Do you have an understanding of why you would need to re-review grants that had already been marked not applicable for DEI?
Mike and Adam asked us to.
Okay. Why couldn't Mike and Adam do this themselves?
They did.
Objection.
They did.
And then they needed a third set of eyes after they did their review?
They did in tandem with our review.
Okay. So there was already a review done by NEH employees and they marked not applicable for DEI, no DEI, right? And then later on you did a review of this already reviewed, of these already reviewed grants to assess for DEI again. Is that right?
Objection to form.
Yes.
Okay. Was there any reason that you thought that NEH employees wouldn't be capable of making a sound call on whether a grant had DEI or not in their initial review?
Objection.
Well, Mike and Adam had asked us to, so they believed so.
Okay. All right, let's go up to the next email. Let's go up to the next one, actually. So later you email Mike McDonald on March 31st, 2025. Mike, could you pass along your cell number? Sorry, don't have it saved and need to catch up with you on something time sensitive. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what you were referring to here?
Probably what I was referring to in the email right above it. Could you scroll up?
Okay.
Let me see.
And then, yeah. So then a few minutes later, you write on the same day, Mike, please call me as soon as you can. Did I read that correctly? Mm-hmm. And then a few minutes later again, you write, Mike, call me when you get the chance. We need a game plan for effectuating RIFs, final grant terminations, and contract cancellations by tomorrow a.m. We will carry these plans out before the end of the week. We're getting pressure from the top on this, and we'd prefer that you remain on our side, but let us know if you're no longer interested. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
You keep referring to we. Who's we?
Nate and me.
Anyone else?
Mike, we need a game plan for effectuating RIFs, grant terminations, etc.
Right. Anyone else besides you, Nate, and Mike?
In what context?
Well, you're saying we. We will carry these plans out. We need a game plan. We're getting pressure. Our side. Who's we?
Our side is Nate and myself.
Okay. So you're saying that you'd prefer that Mr. McDonald stay on the side of you and Nate here?
Objection.
which inherently implies on the side of the White House.
Okay. And when you say we're getting pressure from the top, what are you referring to there?
Broadly, this is pressure from OMB to free up money for spend on Garden for Heroes and America First initiatives. This is also adherence to the EOs, which at this point will have been over 60 days outstanding, particularly as it relates to the DEI and wasteful spending and DOGE lead EOs.
No.
DOGE lead EOs, yeah.
Right. But let's get specific here because you ping him to have him call you 3 times in an hour, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then you say we're getting pressure from the top. Is the top generally the amorphous OMB and other agencies that's causing you to call him and text him frantically within the span of an hour?
Objection.
We were in person here. Every DOGE member could come and go from GSA at any point. Discussions are happening all the time between them and the White House and focusing on the priorities. The pressure is a general pressure here. And Mike was clearly in line or wanted to be in line with the administration. And so that's what this is referring to, is pressure to be in line with the administration given these EOs released so long ago.
Who determined that we need a game plan by tomorrow AM?
This is we referring to Nate and I.
Who determined that tomorrow AM would be the appropriate day to have this game plan?
In our view,
You and Nate.
yeah.
We will carry these plans out before the end of the week. Again, we is you and Nate?
We, in this context, given we cannot do things unilaterally, is the NEH team, Mike
Okay.
and Adam.
Okay. So when you say pressure from the top, that's not referring to Grunbaum?
I don't remember where the information was getting disseminated from, but like I said, we were always in person in GSA, and it was clear from conversations internally, no one person in particular, but that the White House was focused on making sure that agencies were addressing the EOs that were getting dropped.
Right. Agencies like the NEH.
And the Department of Labor,
Right.
HHS.
Right. So you said you don't know exactly where the information was coming from, but there was some information disseminating about the urgency there?
I think so.
Okay. And that's what you were channeling in this email to Mike McDonald?
Yes.
Okay. Did anyone specifically tell you that NEH needed to have the cancellation game plan ready by tomorrow AM, other than Mr. Kavanaugh?
Well, we were already late on adhering to the EOs on DEI initiatives
Right.
and addressing wasteful spend.
Okay. So Mr. Kavanaugh would agree with you that there was no specific person that was applying quote-unquote pressure from the top?
Objection.
That I'm aware of, although this was 9 months ago, 10 months ago, so
Is there anyone that it could have been referencing?
Objection.
I'm not sure. I don't remember. It was 10 months ago.
Right. For some people, 10 months isn't a very long time.
Objection.
And for my 10 months, it feels like a lifetime.
Right. How did you know that the White House was at play in this urgency that you're describing?
Objection.
I knew that there were close relationships between White House and the liaisons that we were working with. And we spoke on a daily basis with some of the leaders at GSA, Josh Grunbaum, Stephen Ehikian.
Steve, who?
Stephen Ehikian.
Who had these close relationships that you're referencing?
The leadership team.
So this is Grunbaum, Ehikian, Armstrong. Anyone else?
From what I remember, yeah.
Anyone else besides those three?
Well, there was probably 30 individuals that were older and in their late stage of their career. Steve Davis is one that came up as someone that was involved, but not someone that we were looking to for specific game plans on agencies, although he was informed.
Who are you looking for specific game plans on agencies?
Ourselves, Nate and myself. Nate particularly, given he had been around longer, like I said, it was a working dynamic. The EOs.
How did you know that Ehikian, Grunbaum, Armstrong, Davis had relationships with the White House?
I just assumed as much based on context they were sharing in our group meetings.
Were they making representations during the group meetings that made it seem like they were in communication with the White House?
I suppose.
Like what?
They were closer to Elon, and Elon was de facto over the relationship with Trump, and so priorities coming from whoever's closest with Elon, I assumed, had the closest relationships in the White House.
Okay. What did you understand the role of Grunbaum, Armstrong, Ehikian, and Davis to be, generally speaking?
Senior guys with close relationships to Elon and deeply entrenched as leaders of the agencies that they're onboarded to.
Senior guys within the DOGE team.
And in their agency roles. So Anthony was deputy chair of OPM, and Stephen Ehikian was the head of GSA. Grunbaum was the head of Federal Acquisition Service, so titles.
Yeah. Okay. Let me pause there and go off the record, if that's okay with you.
Time 6:02 p.m. Concludes meeting 6 off the record.